Okay, we're gonna start loading the 18C. So here you come in and you see these handles, and you might need to open them up like that. Alright, and so I already started a little bit. Just pretend these pots are not here. Okay, you should find the kiln in some kind of state like this. The back should always have these posts and these soft bricks. So there should be 2 posts stacked up, soft brick, and some shorter soft brick in the back, and a 3rd post in the back. You want to make sure that you've got these slivers on top here, because you don't want your shelf to be resting on top of the soft brick. So that ought to be left there. Sometimes there will be a shelf in the front, sometimes there will not be a shelf in the front. You are welcome to take the front shelf out if you would like to gently put your knee on the front brick to load the back of the kiln, but very gently. You can see we're already starting to get some cracks here. Grab a kneeling pad, definitely, and remember, be very gentle. I'm going to just go ahead and start loading the back, and we'll do the entire back first, and then we'll do the front. So I've made sure that these are in the right place, and I'm just going to stack as normal. Alright, so here's the first shelf in. Nothing is touching, and that shelf is not resting on the soft brick baffles. Alright, so now I've got 3 posts laid out on top of the 3 existing posts, and I'm going to find things that are about that height to stack. Alright, here's that second layer. So I've got things that are just about 4 inches high. One thing that's different with these new kilns is you need to make sure you're not letting anything hang over the side of the shelf. There's the burner port right there. That's where the flame comes in. It hits the target brick. This is the hottest spot right here where it's hitting that target brick. There's a ton of velocity here. The flame also escapes through this little crack, and you have to worry about heat being a little excessive on the sides here, which is why we have the baffle bricks in place. So just make sure you don't hang anything over the sides. You'll also, if you're doing the whole back first and then the whole front, which is what I recommend, make sure you don't hang anything over this front shelf. I did it here. Sometimes you just have to make the stack work, and when you do that, you know, it's best to be the person who is the one that has to deal with it when you're doing the front. So if you're going to be doing the whole kiln and you have to do that, go ahead, but just be prepared that you're going to have to stack around this when you do the front stack. Alright, so here's the entire back stacked, and you'll notice the shelves are relatively straight all the way up. There's some spots where maybe it was a little bit over to one side, so then the very next shelf I overcorrected a little bit and kept everything relatively straight up and down. So now I'm going to start on the front shelf, and if you're wondering about cones, those are going to be on the very top of the, or the kind of almost top of the front shelf, level with this peephole right here. So we'll get to that in a minute. So there are 2 different ways that you can stack the baffle bricks in the front of the kiln. You can do what is laid out right now, which is a short stack, and I think that's what I'm going to do because we don't have a lot of tall things. If we had another stack of very tall things, another shelf full of vases, I would decide to do a tall stack here, which is going to be mimicking the same layout that we had in the back. So it would be 2 bricks tall in the back with our spacer, and then I'd have a brick on edge. Sometimes people set these bricks to the side here, which is a good place for them. If not, you might find them underneath the cart on the very bottom here, or sometimes there's also bricks up on the top here. So if I were to do a tall stack, I'd just, you know, grab another post for right there, grab these 2 bricks out, And I want to make sure this is all flush. I don't want any gaps. So I'm going to snug those up, because any gaps here, flame could escape into the stack. If I had these, a little gap here, and then you might end up with a hot spot on one of your pots, which is no good. So that's what that would look like. And then of course I would put a stilt in the front here too, 2 tall stilts. But I'm going to do a short stack. So I'm going to set these aside. And set these back down. Line that up. Okay. And then I'll take that post. Okay, so again I've got my slivers here to keep the shelf from resting on top of the soft brick, and I'm just going to go ahead and stack the front shelf. Alright, here we are. We've got the first stack in, and I actually had to go up a little bit higher because remember I said if you hang anything out on the back stack you're going to have to deal with it in the front stack, which I did have to deal with, so we went a little bit higher to accommodate that bowl. But we'll just keep on moving. 3 posts, and then these second baffle bricks are going to come into play. So we're just doing the same thing we did in the very first stack in the front here, the same as this shelf right here with the baffle bricks next to the back posts, and you want to make sure this is nice and snug. The post is as flush as you can get it, and we want to put our slivers on top too. Okay, and we'll keep stacking. Alright, so next stack, we're not going to be using any baffle bricks this time. The danger of the heat affecting the wear only really affects about 2 brick height for a brick on end. So that's about 9 or 10 inches. The flame hits the target brick right here, and then it shoots up and kind of at an angle. So it's really hitting here and a little bit here, but like we said before, we're not going to be stacking anything out over the edge of the sides especially. You have a little bit of wiggle room in the front here, but of course if you're questioning if something should be hanging off of the stack, the answer is probably no. So we'll go ahead and continue stacking. One minor difference about the way we stack these kilns is that we want to never use a spacer that is shorter than 2 inches. Even for these flat plates here, we found that using a 1-inch spacer really restricts the atmosphere, the reduction from getting to the middle of these shelves. So 2 inches is going to be our shortest shelf height that we do from now on. Okay, now here we are at the cone layer. We're a little bit low, but I think if we go higher we're not going to be able to see it. So our cones are going to go here, and then we're going to come around and check. See, that's a little bit low, so let's grab a stack of spacers and just raise those up. And that looks pretty good. Whoever's firing will be able to see it from a downward angle or even straight on. Okay, and that is the stacked 18. Hopefully your stack isn't as creative as mine had to be. So let's close the door and we'll light the pilots. So these handles swing onto the metal tongues that are sticking out, or the metal tabs. And then these screw down. And it's going to stop when this nut hits the outside of this metal here, and that's as far as you tighten it down. And same thing on the bottom. Okay, that's good. Check to make sure the peeps are in.